Okay. All right, listen. So this is going to be chapter 4, section 6. All right. We have not finished chapter 4. Okay, we did like the first half of it. Okay. Today, this is going to be called Triangle Congruence. We're going straight into it. We missed 2 days. We got to catch up. It is your guys' fault. Okay. All right. Guys, let's just be quiet and let's just listen, okay? We're here at school. We're here to... That question has made me very mad today, so please don't ask again. Nope, just don't. Just questions in general. All right, don't make me move you back. Okay? Today we're going to be talking about triangle congruence. So, with chapter 4, we kind of introduced triangles. Okay, now we're going to go more into it. And that's going to bring us into chapter 5. Now, pay attention today. Okay, because today's lesson goes into the rest of the lessons for this chapter 4. If you do not remember the 5 main things that we talked about today, all right, you will be so lost, all right? Pay attention to these 5 that we're going to talk about, okay? When we're going to be given 2 triangles, okay? On each step, we're going to be given 2 triangles, and based on its sides and angles, we're going to be able to tell if those triangles are congruent or not, okay? Based on just sides and angles, okay? The first one we're going to talk about, let's say I have these 2 triangles. Now, what does it mean if it has this mark right here? Yeah, it means that those 2 sides are congruent. So I'm going to go ahead and add this right here, okay? So what this would mean is like these 2 sides are congruent, these 2 sides are congruent to each other, these 2 are congruent to each other. All right? Now, what are those sides or angles? They're sides, okay? So what this is going to be called is it's going to be called S, S, S. What do you think S stands for? Side. Side. So all this stands for is side, side, side. Okay? Because of these 2 triangles, since we have that all 3 sides are congruent, we can say that these 2 triangles are congruent based on SSS, side, side, side. Okay? So just know, anytime it's SSS, they are congruent. Okay? Do we have questions on that? All right, let's go to the next example. All right, again, let's say I have 2 triangles. Okay? Now, let's look at this one, okay? What would this mean right here? What is that? That's an angle, okay? Now, when we do this, okay, all of these are pretty much just going to have 3 letters. Now, when we look at this one, we have, what do I have here? What's this? Okay, so when we do this, okay, don't say it like that. Just say it as, this would be an example of SAS. Side, angle, side. Now, here's the thing in your head you can. Here's the thing you have to pay attention to. Okay? Because we have these congruent sides in these 2 angles, we can say that those 2 triangles are congruent. Even though we don't know the values of the other angles or the other side, all right? If 2 triangles have SAS, side, angle, side, then they are congruent. Okay? By following this, just pick one side and then follow the congruent symbols. So don't go this way and say S, S, A. Okay? That doesn't work. Once you find a congruent side, follow the next congruent symbol that's next to it. So S, side, angle. Then we go to the next one, side. So see how it's side, angle, side? All right? And not S, S, A. Okay? There's side, angle, side. Let's look at the next one. We have more. There's more than just one. What do we think this one is? This is a no. ASA. This just has the 2 marks because it means the 2 marks are congruent to the other 2 marks. Okay. Well, I can't just put 1 mark because then that means this would be congruent to this. But that's not true. Okay. So this one side angle, or sorry, not side angle side. This one's angle side angle. So ASA. Something to help you on the SAS and the ASA. Just think about it is for the SAS, that angle is in between the 2 congruent sides. Okay? This one, the congruent side is in between those 2 congruent angles. Okay? And you just follow it. It's ASA. I don't go A all the way over here, AS. It has to be A, go to the next symbol, S, A. You go to the one next to it. Okay, does that make sense? I can't go this way because there's no congruent side or angle. So I got to go the other way. A, S, A. All right. Let's look at our next one. It will make more sense once we do some examples. Okay? If you keep telling yourself that, then it's not going to make any sense. No, it's not. Yep, this is angle, angle, side. Now, this one, all right, we go angle, angle, side. All right? This one's not angle, side, angle, because is that side in between the 2 angles? No, it is not. So this one's angle, angle, side. This one's a little tricky, because if you go the other way, say we do side, angle, angle, all right, we won't talk about side, angle, angle, just flip the letters. If you flip it, then it becomes angle, angle, side, AAS. All the other ones are interchangeable. So like if you flip it, it's still ASA. If you flip this, it's still SAS. This is the only one, if you get SAA, flip it, and that should be AAS. Okay? Now, we have one more. Do you guys want to try to guess what this one would be? Nope, don't be an ASS. There is none. There is no ASS. There is no ASS. Okay? Never put ASS on your test. Honors kids did that. And just don't be stupid. Okay? But if you ever put ASS on your test or quiz and you think, that looks right, no, you're not right. So don't be in ASS and put that on your test, okay? This one, all right? This one, no one guessed it right. It's HL. Yeah. This one is, pay attention, hypotenuse, leg. Huh? Okay. All right. Would you guys like me to write that it's side, 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 side angle, side, or do we kind of get the gist of that? Okay. If you need to write all of these under, like here, you can do that to remind you. So, Nikis, you knew that H stood for hypotenuse. Do you know what that means? Only on what certain triangles? Yeah, perfect. So, everyone, listen. Let's listen to what Nikis just said. All right, let's listen to what Nikis just said. Hypotenuse, whenever we're talking about, whenever we talk about hypotenuse, all right, that's going to involve right triangles. So in order for this to be hypotenuse leg, okay, it has to have a 90-degree angle, all right? The hypotenuse is the diagonal line. It's the side directly across from that 90-degree angle. That's the hypotenuse. The other 2 sides of the triangle are the legs. In order for this to work, we just have to have one of the legs. Okay? So even if it was this leg, it would still work. All right? Because it's hypotenuse leg. That's what HL stands for. All right? Do we have questions about any of these? These are the 5 things that you just need to know today. Okay? Do we have all this down? Okay? So, we need to remember SSS, SAS, ASA, AAS, and HL. And don't be an ASS. Perfect. Okay, do we all have this written down now? All right. So if I were to do this, and you were to not look at your notes, all right? So flip your notes. Everyone flip. Just flip it. Flip your notes, Noah. All right, Ryan, give me an example of one of them. What's one of the ones we learned? No, flip your notes. There's SSS. Mia, do you remember one of them? AAS. Avery? SAS. Weston? HL, perfect. Katie, can you tell me the last one? ASA. Perfect, good job. Okay, remember those 5. Okay, do we ever talk about angle, angle, angle? No. If we're given 2 triangles, all right? If we're given 2 triangles, and let's say all the angles are marked, all right? Can we prove that these 2 triangles are congruent? No. It's not one of the ones we talked about. Because, look at this. You can even see by the size I drew these triangles. Those sides are different values, all right? The angles are the same. It just gets smaller. But since the sides are the same, or are not the same, we cannot prove that these are congruent. So this does not work, all right? So just know, like, AAA does not work, all right? You will never see ASS, all right? You'll see SSA. Will SSA work? Flip it. Then what does that tell us?
A word.
Okay, so is that one or not? No, it's not. Okay. So let's look at some examples on what you guys would see. Okay, let's look at this first one. Now, what would be an example of these 2 triangles? Who, raise your hand and tell me. Yeah, James? Side, side, side. We're given all 3 sides. So, if I put side, side, side right here, the next part says, can they or can they not be proven congruent? Can or cannot? They can. That's one of the 5 we talked about. Perfect. Let's go to this one. Weston, when we look at this one, what is this an example of? Don't say that. There's 2 angles. SSA. This is an example of SSA. Can they or can they not? Flip the letters. They cannot. Do you see how that's an example of cannot? Because this is ASS or SSA. Is that one of the 5 we talked about? No. Correct. If it's not one of the 5 we talked about, then it cannot work. All right? Let's look at this one. What's this an example of, Mia? AAA. Can they or can they not? Cannot. Perfect. That's not one of the ones we talked about. Good. What about this one, Austin? It's SAS, because that think of that angle is in between the two congruent sides. Is SAS one of the ones we talked about? So they can. All right? Perfect. Do we have any questions on those four? Let's look at this one. Who can tell me what this is an example of? Is it HL? No. There's only one angle. Now, this is a right triangle. It is a right triangle, okay? But do we have the hypotenuse and one of the legs? We don't have the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the diagonal line. It's the one directly across from the 90-degree angle. So this is not marked. Okay, so it cannot be HL because the hypotenuse is not marked. But we have this leg and what's in between it? It's a right angle. But if this is a right angle, is this also a right angle? So they're congruent. So what can this be? Just go in order, follow it. It's no, not L. It's SAS. Because we have side, angle, side. So don't let this one trick you, okay? We do not have the hypotenuse, so it's not hypotenuse leg. But it is SAS, so can it or can it not? Or it can, yeah. All right, let's look at this last one. What would this be an example of? This is an example of hypotenuse leg, HL. All right? Because this time we have our hypotenuse, that diagonal line. All right? So can or cannot? Can. It's one of the ones we talked about. All right, do we have any questions on these? Okay, does this make sense? Yeah. All right, this isn't all. Okay, we're going to go over one last thing. All right, because then tomorrow we'll just do something small and I'll give you guys time to work on homework. Let's just finish this, okay? Now, do not freak out, okay? But this isn't a little example of what our like kind of proofs will look like with this. Now, not yet. You're going to be given something like this. Now, let's look at the two triangles first, okay? The two triangles. What is this an example of? Can we agree that it's angle, angle, side? Okay, so are they congruent or are they not congruent? They are. So if they are congruent, okay, what did we just say it is? Quinn? So I'm going to put AAS down here. All right? We have to fill out the rest of these words, or these boxes, okay? But it's really simple right here. If we do AAS, all right, let's find our first angle. So see how this is an A? Our first box that we're going to fill out is going to be two congruent angles. What's congruent with angle L? B, because it also just has one mark. So all I'm going to put right here is angle L is congruent to angle B. Okay, seem pretty easy? What do we think my next box has to represent? Is it going to represent an angle or a side? It'll represent an angle because it's AAS. So what two angles will I put here? N and Z. Perfect. Now I have, what's my last box going to be? A side. Okay. So when I do my two sides, okay, I got to do two letters. So what is my first one going to be? Yeah, NM, or if you flipped it, that's okay, is congruent to AZ. Okay, pay attention when you do this, though. You're going to have to do ZA. when you do the sides, see how we did NM? Okay, see how N has that congruent angle? So when you do that for the other one, you have to make sure you do ZA, because Z has that first letter has that angle. Does that make sense? Okay, so we put angle side on the bottom. What we have to do here on the bottom is put that the two triangles are congruent. On these questions, there's no reason for you to miss this part. On the top of the question, or no, it doesn't, sorry. That's for a future one. We have to name the two triangles, but in the correct order. I'm going to put triangle and follow. You have to follow the angles correctly. So if I do LNM, triangle LNM is congruent to triangle. How do I name the other one to follow the angles? BZA. Because angle L and angle B are congruent. Angle Z and angle N are congruent. Angle M and angle A are congruent. Okay? Does that make sense? Let's not look at that one. Let's look at this one, number 9. Oops. These two triangles. All right, what would this be an example of? No, we don't have any sides. How many angles do we have? Just 2. So this is an example of AA. Is that one of the ones we talked about? No. So are they or are they not congruent? They are not. If they are not, you do not fill these boxes. You just hit are not, move on to the next question. Okay? This is the part that gets people on the test. I will put one that's it's are not, and then they fill out the boxes and they miss points because they filled it out. All right? You do not have to fill the boxes if it's are not. Does that make sense? Real quick, let's go to this one. What is this one an example of? Oops, sorry. Yeah, this is an example of HL. Now, this one is a little different than the other ones because it only has 2 letters and there's 3 boxes. All right, so the letters don't fit in each box. Okay, let's do our HL. We're going to do our HL in these 2 boxes right here. So how can I name that the 2 hypotenuse sides are congruent? DE is congruent to SR. What about my 2 legs? FE is congruent to PR. Perfect. Now, in this first box, here's the nice thing about Delta Math. You do not have to write this. You just select the option. You just have to fill it out. There's an option that says triangle blank and triangle blank are right triangles. So that's what's going to go in this box. Triangle blank and triangle blank are right triangles. You do have to name the triangles though. If I were to name the 2 triangles, let's say I did FDE right here. How do I name the other one so the angles match? It would have to be PSR because F and P are both the 90-degree angles. All right. Then we go S and D are the same. E and R are the same. If you struggle for DS and E and R, look at these 2 congruent sides. E is in the middle of those 2 congruent sides. R is in the middle of those 2 congruent sides. Okay? So if it's FDE, it has to be PSR. All right? Do we have questions about that? Then you can just put triangle, just follow the same triangle that you just did. Triangle FDE is congruent to triangle PSR. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you guys some time to work on it today. Just raise your hand if you have questions, because you'll probably have some questions. But here's the part that you're going to miss the most, is not following the letters correctly. Follow the letters correctly and you will be fine. Now, you have some time today to work on it. You'll have some time tomorrow to work on it. If we happen to not have school tomorrow, this is still due tomorrow.